Hello world, this is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake for Hoopa Hideout. Today, I want to talk to you about how we're going to play Miraidon EX in 2024. There's some key things that have changed recently that are very important for the decks that we're seeing play now. Specifically, we need to be able to beat Charizard EX, and we need to be able to beat Giratina Lost Box. This version of the deck, and the other version that we'll look at later, can both do that. Now, before we get into the full-blown deck lists, I want to cue you in on one key card from Paradox Rift that makes all the difference in the meta right now for Miraidon. It's not the one you're thinking of, and if you do get it right, then I think maybe you should subscribe, because clearly you're thinking on another level and you already know the great things and we can work together. If you don't get it right, maybe you should subscribe, because I'm cueing you in on key information. Either way, if you do subscribe, I appreciate the support. It does a lot to help me out. And that key card is not Iron Hands EX. Iron Hands is great, but the key card for moving us into the current meta is actually Tapu Koko EX. And I'll give you more information as to why as we go through the deck lists. So let's get started. What hasn't changed? Well, we still have Miraidons as the sort of founding purpose, the engine that drives the show. Miraidon will get you all your other Pokemon. You want to play 2? Normal lists used to play 3. Playing 2 now is often enough, because that's most of what he's there for. He's also a good attacker, but not our best attacker in all situations. You want to play 2, he's the first thing you get out, so you can develop the rest of your board. We want to play Raichu V. He's our heavy hitter in the match. He can hit for 300 plus damage, he can OHKO Charizard EX, he can OHKO Giratina, he can take one-hit knockouts on most of the Pokemon in the format, and perhaps all if you get enough energies in play. Playing Mareep and Flaffy is one version of the deck that will allow you to continually cycle energies from the discard. That's a good thing, but it's not necessarily enough. We also, of course, play Electric Generators to accelerate the energies in their first attachment, and both lists play that. This list is Nicholas Moffat's list that in a very Charizard-heavy tournament in Portland actually got all the way up to top 8 when most of the Miraidon players were failing to even make day 2. I think EXP share is part of the reason for that, because every time a Pokemon with energy gets knocked out, that energy stays in play and continues to build and make Raichu more powerful. Nicholas chose to play 2 copies of Raichu V so that he can take those big knockouts multiple times throughout the game. He did play a 2-2 line of Flaffy for more energy recovery that way. We are playing Raichu V just as a quick, efficient attacker that can also draw cards. We're playing Iron Hands as an attacker that can take multiple prizes on single prizers to keep those decks in check. This makes your Lost Box matchup very winnable as opposed to being kind of a tough gig. And Tapu Koko EX is actually kind of the hidden secret, the tech card that a lot of Miraidon players didn't think about, but the best ones did. Tapu Koko serves for his 2 energy attack. He does 30 damage. But if your opponent just took a knockout, then you do an extra 90 and your opponent is going to be paralyzed. So this is where Charizard has comes into feel pain, because Tapu Koko paralyzes that Charizard, puts 120 damage. That's easy then to follow up with any of your other Pokemon. If you have Zapdos in play, it actually puts 130 damage, which means that then you can follow it up with anything that hits 200 damage. Basically any other attacker except for Tapu Koko can do that. Well, not Iron Hands. You can also, in the Charizard matchup, we'll talk about this more in some of the gameplay videos, but one thing I like to see a lot is attacking with Miraidon before they can KO Miraidon. And just getting 220 damage on there while you survive their next attack. It's better to not let them get early KOs. We have Zapdos in here to increase your damage. We have Spiritomb to help a few different matchups. Everything that uses abilities from normal Pokemon V. Now, it does take the ability away from your Raikou, but more importantly, it makes the Mew matchup a lot better because it interferes with Genesect from drawing cards, and it can actually make stall decks a lot better because 1, it makes Rotom not draw cards, and 2, if they boss it up, you can just attach an energy and then it'll remove itself from your board. We also play Mew EX, just to draw cards basically, but sometimes you'll end up using its attack. This is a good attacker against Giratina. And then of course we play Squawkabilly, primarily for the draw, but every once in a while, 1 energy attack to attach 2 more energies to your bench can do everything you need to get you set up to win the game later. Our supporter count is pretty standard. Has been since like LAIC, where we see 4 research, 3 boss, 2 Iono, 2 judge, 4 generators is when we get into the items, 4 generators for energy attachment, 4 ultra balls, making sure that we can get those flavies out, making sure we can get some of the other Pokemon that aren't lightning based. 2 switches, an escape rope that may be a little bit higher than you'd expect, given that we also have 2 beach courts in here. But this, again, will help with that stall matchup that has become prevalent with Snorlax. We've got 1 Nest Ball, because Nest Ball is good too. The 2 EXP shares that I talked about before to keep the energy in play. 2 4 Seal Stones for our V Pokemon, so that at some point we can get exactly the card we want. 2 Paths to the Peak, still liking the ability to disrupt our opponents in the right situations. And then the Beach Courts for free retreat can be huge, especially now that we're not playing an extra free retreater. We just have the Mew. Then we have a 13 and 1 energy count between Lightning and Double Turbo Energy. This is a great list. This would be my starting point for anyone this year that's wanting to play Miraidon. Start here. This is what you want. Now then, some people prefer to try to make things go faster and want to be able to attack with Iron Hands more and more consistently. That's where we shift things around a little bit. So we still have the 2 count of Miraidon because we want to get our electric Pokemon out. But we aren't going to be primarily trying to attack with him. We'll do it sometimes. We now have a 1-1 Flavy line, because this is sort of a secondary concern, keeping the energy streaming. What we're really trying to do, though, is to turn 1 attack with Iron Hands as often as possible so that we can get multiple prizes starting out. I'm going to say it again. I said it before, but this is not the way to play against Charizard. You don't want to take multiple prizes starting out because they just get the return KO. Set up a slower paced game, and that's how you can start to make lists like this even beat up on those Charizards. We also play the Tapu Koko EX, again, because that 120 to 130 with paralysis is great. Squawkabilly still draws us cards. Zapdos still increases our damage. All this is good. We still have Spiritomb to help with those matchups that rely on that Rotom V, which again, also in Charizard these days. But where we start seeing things different is primarily in the supporters and a little bit in the energy. So we'll start with the energy. We're playing 3 more copies of Lightning. We're all the way up to 16. That's over a quarter of our deck, Lightning energy. Again, though, that's so that we can attack with Iron Hands very fast. Because a very frequent play is going to be to get Peony, use him to discard your whole hand, everything that you can't use right that second, and then get 2 electric generators so that you can get 4 energies accelerated just that fast onto Iron Hands. Now, alongside Peony, we want to play a few things to kind of help recover from Peony, because once your whole hand's gone, you don't have anything left in play. So we, of course, play that Squawkabilly. We don't want to use this before we Peony unless we have to. We'd rather get Squawkabilly down than play a Peony, get the electric generators in play, and then Squawk to get a new hand. Additionally, we have now 2 copies of Mew EX, not just 1. That's because Mew EX draws 3 cards when our hand is empty. Peony's going to give us that situation a lot, so we want to be able to draw and recover from it consistently and draw multiple times even. So Mew EX is a bigger part of this deck than most Miraidon lists. Once again, can also be a great attacker into Charizard, into Giratina, into a lot of matchups. We're playing a couple of Super Rods to get the energies and sometimes an attacker that we want to reuse back into the deck. We're playing a couple of Lost Vacuums so that we can focus on being able to use our abilities for draw and for bringing out Pokemon. Because, we don't even have any copies of Path to the Peak now. We're so reliant on the Mew draw engine, we can't afford that. But we do have Lost Vacuums to help make things work better. Sometimes you'll have to Peony for a Lost Vacuum and another item. We play 2 escape ropes and a switch cart. I think that's the same as what we saw in the other list. We are playing the 2 beach courts as well. This list is playing a bravery charm to add some extra bulk to one of your Pokemon. The other list did not, but I don't think it's necessarily required. This can improve your Charizard matchup if you are able to get it onto Iron Hands and complicate their early turns. And then we have the 4 Steel Stone. We're just playing 1 this time. Arven can seek it out though. So if you're not playing Peony, if you've got something else you need to get cooking, Arven can help you, and the 4 Steel Stone onto a Raichu or Raikou will help that advance further. We have 2 bosses orders. I like 3, but to fit with what we're trying to do in this deck, 2 makes more sense. A Raihan will keep the energy coming back, getting reattached, help you get the pieces you need when you need them. And then I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. I've seen some lists that actually play 2 copies of Double Turbo so that you can get the second Iron Hands use either after recycling it with Super Rod, or sometimes even playing 2 copies of Iron Hands to make it that much more consistent to get Iron Hands attacks off, because it helps you so much to be able to establish a 2/2/2 prize trade against any deck, not just the big decks. I will say that the one option from this list that I sort of could see finding space for in Nicholas's version is that Raihan to get whatever card you need and accelerated energy. I think that could be pretty powerful. But other than that, I think you're going to be playing well, doing well, and fighting against the Charizards well with either of these lists. So now that we've covered both lists and shown you the things that have changed, hopefully it's opened your eyes to how you can play Miraidon these days. But you may want some more content. As soon as it's ready, I'll have a link from here to the next video in the How to Play Miraidon series, where you get to see these lists in action. In the meantime, I'd love for you to show me your support and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a ton. Thank you for watching.